Alright guys, we're back. Like I said, part 2 on the Z turbo project, but today we got to go ahead and install the fuel pump. So yeah, you just basically pop down this panel and it's right there, so you just get to pull it out, and I got the new pump ready to go in. I'll show you guys a little bit of that as we get going. Alright, first thing, we got these 4 little things here with the screwdriver. They basically just turn, and then you can get this cover off. That way we can pop this cover off, and then you can see the fuel pump housing right there. So next, we got to go ahead and pull this apart, take the pressure and electronic line off, and get this out of the way. You just push down on this top clip to pull that off. You know, before I do this, I was going to mention, it makes a lot of sense to go pop the gas door open, because if you don't, you get gas kind of all over the place. So I'm going to go ahead and pop the gas door really quick. Okay, now that we got the fuel door open to release any excess pressure in here, we can go ahead and pull off these cover bolts just real quick, and then undo the line, and then we can get the pump assembly out. Now it is time to pull this sucker out of here. You just gotta be careful when you're pulling this out to not, you know, mess up or bend up this fuel level sensor. Alright, so now that I got the fuel pump installed, I had a few minutes, and I'm waiting for a few more parts for this Z, but I was able to get the cold air intake on it, which it's kind of a tough fit because it fits just out of this little factory hole thing right here, if you can see it. It's kind of hard to get the 2 clamps situated and get the filter on, but you know, it's on there, looks pretty good, and now I can put the factory bumper back on. And I'm just waiting on some special connectors for the injectors. And then I can put the injectors in, the ECU in, and we can try firing it up on the new tune. And then if everything's good, basically I think we can go to the dyno. What up, Failure Z in the house? Fellow YouTuber setting up his shot. Apparently this isn't a real repair shop anymore. We just fix things up for YouTube. It's called the Gearheads YouTube studio. Apparently everybody in Austin owns a Z. He's laughing because he knows it's true. Yeah. This one's pretty cool, check it out. Let's see. Hey, how come your fender's red?
Well, when you put this car down, you'll see how oxidized the paint is.
Ah.
Now it's just
You just wanted to...
Plastic dip's $7, so I tried it to see how I'd like it. Then I got an opportunity to buff my entire car, and I realized I didn't like it, and I've just been lazy.
Oh, I gotcha.
So I'm probably gonna repaint it all black.
It's kind of fun with the red fender. It gives it a little personality. All right, so working on the Z, we've got the boost gauge that we've got to put in, and I figured I'd show you guys because we basically got a gauge that's sort of like 2-in-1. It's the AEM fail-safe or true boost, whatever they call that. It has air fuel ratio and boost. But I think this gauge is super awesome because really those are the only two things that I care about seeing when I'm tuning a car. So, yeah, here it is. Got some instructions, we got a sensor, we got different face plates, got some vacuum tees and connectors, O2 bung to weld in if you need that. We got some, this is kind of cool because it's actually a USB cord because it's programmable. So you can actually change it to read either boost around the outside and air fuel on the inside, or air fuel around the outside and boost on the inside. I love this gauge just for that reason. So you can program it to do either one. Comes with the vacuum line. We got you know, all the cables for the wideband, and then more wiring for the other gauge. And if you flip it over here, the actual gauge itself, pretty nice. You can change it to different colors. So like if your gauges are silver or white, it comes with like a silver bezel or a different, you can actually change like the outside edge or the inside. I don't know, all in all, I think AEM makes the best gauges in the industry, so it's what I tend to use all the time. They're also really easy to install, and if you're thinking about getting a different wideband gauge, I'd think twice because these ones are self-calibrating, and a lot of the other ones on the market, you have to take them out of the exhaust, open air calibrate, and put it back in the exhaust every time that the calibration goes bad. And, you know, I just hate having extra steps for no reason, so I tend to just stick with AEM. It works pretty good. Okay, my favorite thing about installing AEM gauges is that you really only have to deal with such a small amount of wiring. If you just want the gauge to work, even though there's two gauges in here, you can literally wire the power and ground, and the wideband and the boost gauge works. You're done. If you're fancy and you want to wire in the illumination, this one, if you wire it to the right spot in your car, you can actually dial in your like your instrument cluster backlight, and this will follow that voltage and it will turn the gauge brightness up or down. I don't usually worry about it. I can't remember if in this gauge, if just tying it in, you know, works, or if you can leave it undone. I think on the last one I did, I just wired the power and ground, and because of the way the gauge is, the center of it is digital numbers, and the outside are like light up LEDs, and that's kind of all you needed. Like having the actual backlight on was almost more distracting in the night, so I kind of just liked it with the backlight off. So I don't know, I think I might go test it really quick on the battery and see which way I like it better, and then decide whether I'm going to tie it in with the illumination in the car. Okay, so I've got the ground stuck on the battery right here, and this is just the red wire for the power, and this is the gauge, and if you power it up, it turns on, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Like that center indicator, like whatever you want to call that LED screen thing, it's totally bright enough to see, and so is the outside, you know, little light. It travels around the outside of the bezel and gives you the indicator for either boost or air fuel ratio. So, like honestly, I think on this install, I'm just gonna go ahead and do the power and the ground and call it a day. And then we just put the wideband O2 sensor in and route everything and mount it up, and that should be it. Next thing I gotta do is find a fuse that I can tie into in the fuse panel. So, you know, maybe tie it in just with your stereo. This doesn't take a whole lot of power or amperage to run, so I'll probably do something like that. A really easy way to do it is to grab one of these little dudes if you can find one. These are called an ADA circuit. So if I pop that fuse out, I can pop this in its place, and then when you fill these locations with new fuses, they will keep both your new instruments and your stereo fused like they were supposed to. So these things are super handy, and you basically just connect this to your power, and then you just gotta ground the gauge and you're kind of done. You just gotta run the wiring. Okay, so the next thing you're thinking about is where I'm gonna run the wires, and on this particular car, he has a gauge cluster, or a gauge pod that he bought to go on the A-pillar. It's just a single one, it'll go right here. But that means I need to get the wiring from here down to, you know, the fuse box location. So, I mean, this is actually so easy. If you just peel this rubber piece back here, voila! There's like huge amount of space that you can run the wiring down through and up into your pillar, and that makes it very, very easy. So I'm gonna go ahead and route my power wiring and leave my gauge just sitting here until he gets his, you know, gauge pod holder, and that way it'll be ready to go, and I can finish wiring it up here, and my job will, you know, be kind of done. Okay, so the next most challenging thing, and this is probably the worst thing of the whole install, is this is the wiring that goes to the wideband sensor, and this is the vacuum cord that goes to the boost gauge, and you got to run them through the firewall. So I'm gonna show you how to do that right now. Getting the wiring for the wideband and the vacuum hose through the firewall is always kind of a challenging thing, but I found a spot on the 350Z that seems like probably the easiest place to go, and I used kind of a trick to get it through. I sharpened the end of like a coat hanger, or I used like a welding rod, and I stabbed it through from inside the car out to in here, and that was, you know, like it pokes a hole through, and then I can see where it comes through, and then I make a little slit with a knife, and then tape my wires to the piece that I stuck through, and I pull it back through, and voila, you got your wires ran, and it stays nice and tight and pokes through the factory little rubber. So I'll show you what that looks like really quick. I've got the thing pulled through, and I'll try to shine a light. It's hard to see, it's kind of down in there, you gotta kind of look for it. So here it is really quick. Let's see if we can get it. Lift this up a little bit. Make a cut right along here. Cool. So I got that hole big enough now with the razor blade that I can attach my wiring and pull it back through. Okay, now that I'm done up top, I have to actually put the physical O2 sensor in the pipe. But on this particular kit, the crossover pipe for the turbo connection sits right on top of the extra O2 bung. So I'm not really sure how they were intending us to use that. So I'm just not going to worry about it. The AEM gauge came with another O2 sensor bung, and you know, I can just weld one in real quick. So I'm probably just going to add this somewhere in here, so that I have a nice like downstream O2 you know, reference on the gauge. Alright, all welded up. Just gotta stick this in here and run it up towards the cab where I have the other end of the plug, and plug it in. And then we'll have an extra O2 sensor feedback for tuning, so I can have another reference to make sure that the O2 sensors are, you know, giving me the right data. Alright, the next thing I gotta do is somehow get behind this panel, because that apparently is where the ECU is located. It said behind the glove box. Does anybody else see a glove box? There's not a glove box in here. Ridiculous. So, but I do think that it sits up in here. So I'm going to go ahead and get this panel off really quick, and then we will pull the factory ECU out and we will replace it with the new ECU, which I'll show you in a minute. This part's a little ridiculous, and it's kind of the first thing you got to do, is you have to get back into here, and there's this little tab thing, and it will unlock this drawer so it comes out. And once that, there's just like a little thing you got to push down right there. Hopefully you can see that. But I mean, it's super plasticky and easy to break this, so be careful. If you're doing an ECU or anything like that and you got to get in there, use a little screwdriver, pop that out. Or if this thing breaks, you got to replace it. Now we can get to the last screw. Voila. Now the ECU is just located over here. This is the actual pigtail for it. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull that now, and then I have the new bracketing to put the Haltech ECU in its place. Oop, wasn't supposed to tell you what it was yet. Ha! You might have guessed already. I'll show you guys that in just a second. Alright guys, so in case you're wondering, we decided to go with Haltech plug and play. You know, there's other ways to do it. Obviously, I've seen some things in the comments. Everybody has different opinions on what the best thing to tune their car is. But this is cool because it gives us full control, and I can do a lot more things in this that I might not be able to do in other software. So we are going to go ahead and swap out this bracket. Came with like a new one, and we can mount the new Haltech in there. I'm gonna go ahead and get that done right now. Okay, I got this thing all bolted onto the bracket, ready to go. I'm gonna go install it back in the Z. In the instructions, they said to plug in the USB, cable for tuning and stick the vacuum line on before you get it installed. This vacuum line, that's one of the coolest things I think on this ECU. Right away, it comes with a startup map, and as long as you have this vacuum line hooked up to your manifold for reference, the map sensor inside the ECU, it already starts to run. You don't have to recalibrate the map sensor. So that is actually a pretty cool thing. Should make this really easy to fire up. Let's go put it in right now. All right, got that all back together. Now it's time to hook up the vacuum line, and then we can try to start the car. All right, so when you don't want your friends to die, you buy them a Christmas present for their car, for their safety. Here you go, Yari. Merry Christmas.
I think I know what it is. For my daughter. So we'll be able to align it too now, right?
Yeah, so these are adjustable upper ball joints for your upper control arm. So it'll be able to pull your camber in a little, so you can have a little bit more tire on the ground, and it'll get rid of that crazy clunk, 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 clunk.
And no tires won't wear.
Yeah.
On camber arm.
Yeah, that's get rid of the sketchiness factor.
I appreciate it.
No problem, man.
I can go get you a Christmas gift.
Okay, those Christmas ball joints, we got them things ready to go. I know this has nothing to do with the Z project, but thanks to everybody getting their Christmas presents on time. The shipping was delayed on the last injector clips that we needed to finish the install for the 350Z, so I can't finish the Z in part 2, so it's going to have to be a part 3. But on the part 3, I'm going to show all the stuff that happens with, we've got to stick the injectors in, do the spark plugs, and put it on the dyno. So part 3 will just be that. I mean, pretty much the rest of the install is completely done. So I figured we'll finish out the rest of the day by trying to install these upper ball joints. This car's like super crazy low, and his upper ball joints are bad now. Probably just from driving around so long. But if you can see, like, wait, Yari, hold on. Okay, ready? So obviously that's why I bought these for him, because I don't want my friend to die. It's so bad. It's so bad. Like every time I got in the car, I'm like, dude, what is that noise?
Jeremy always makes this face like.
I'm like nervous. Like, luckily it has automatic seatbelts, so I feel a little safer. But it's still like a false sense of safe. Hey, buddy. All right, we're gonna go ahead and stick these on. Looks like it. Got it. Right. You can actually get different ones for the inside here that we can move back and forth, Yari.
And they're like bushings?
No, they're like adjustable. They're just called a bolt style, like camber adjuster. Basically, they're slotted so they move forward and back here. But we could get you some of those, and you'll get a little bit more camber than just having the end one for a camber.
So the metal control arm itself is good though.
Yeah, the metal's not going to break. We'll just push the new joint in, and we could get these. Your joints back here are kind of blown out too. So it's okay. We'll just have to pick up a set of these next time I'm on mine. All right, throw that cotter pin in, and we are pretty much done. Wow, it is super dark in there.
Yeah, I'll get it. Okay.
Can you kind of see? There we go. So even though technically he should get an alignment, we just went ahead and pulled the ball joint all the way out as far as possible because this car is so low that it needs basically all the camber correction that we can get.
Because I'm always repping for that low high.
Yes, I do.
I mean, I
I'm
like
just happy we can align it now. That's what I really can't wait to do.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I think it's gonna drive a lot better too.
Yeah, it won't try to steer when you hit a bump.
It took me a while to warm up to him.
No, yesterday when we went to the F1 track, I was gonna record more
I had the
stuff.
perfect clickbait.
Oh my gosh, she's learned the YouTube terminology.
I was ready for it.
The washer goes on top?
On top of what? Yes, sir. Hey, Yari. I think the wheel looks straighter now. Well, not like straight as far as like straight, but like it definitely pushed your camber out.
See how long the wheels last now.
Yeah, you have way less camber than you did. Okay.
You need me to go up?
No, that's fantastic. You have no more ball joint knock. His car is no longer knocking.
I feel like I'm gonna start missing that noise.
Totally solid. Yeah, every time you drive forward and it goes clunk, and then you reverse and it goes clunk
It
again.
was like a part of your everyday life, and now that it's gone, you're like sad.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like, what happened to the knocking noise? Is everything okay? Something that.
Oh man.
I can't.
Okay, well, solving one problem at a time.
The best Christmas gift ever.
Thank you. I love that.
I hope your YouTubers appreciate this part of the conversation, so you should keep this in here.
Oh, we got editing.
No, you can't edit the girl talk out.
So we're just like,
You
we just
can't
take
edit.
all the real conversation.
No, we need to stay.
Just take it right out.
You had to go buy extra sockets and 10s weren't one of them? Lucky you.
Well, maybe I need a 10. I don't know. Where is it? Just had it. Oh my goodness. Okay,
Should we
on
quit?
that note, with the lost 10, we're going to end this video right here because we're pretty much good for the week. Check back in next time, and we will do part 3 of the Z, and that'll be the dynoing, that'll be the finale, that'll be the best part. So stay tuned. We'll see you guys next time.
So we push it? Where do we push?
It's already going.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we're going to the F1 track.
Finally, I've never been to the F1 track, but it's Christmas time, I guess.
No, there's racing. There's racing there.
Not right now. Like
Babe,
Santa racing?
we're going to the F1 track.
Oh,
Clickbait.
right. That's right. We are going. We are going to the F1 track.
He's terrible at this.
Racing. Well, you were supposed to be.
I was supposed to give you guys clickbait. He was supposed to be like, oh my god, we're going to the F1 track. And then it was going to be Christmas. But we are going to the F1 track. We're going to the Circuits of the America in Austin, Texas, where they have turned it into a winter wonderland where we're going to ride a camel. Yep, that's happening. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we're riding a camel.
I want to ride an F1 car. Is what I want to ride.
Well, there will not be any. There's a petting zoo, though. So, I would like to say that this is Jerem's first time to the F1 track, and we live 30 minutes from it. And the first time he goes is for Christmas, so that is a win.
All this good racing, I see none of it.